Welcome to the AIA Southwest Florida's 2023-24 season of Coffee Talk. I'm Stephen Ruby, AIA, and I'm going to be moderating this morning's conversation with David Corban, AIA. David is a principal in David Corban Architects here in Naples, Florida, and he provides quality architectural services to the public and private sector. David has been at the forefront of designing communities in Florida, winning more than 30 awards from the AIA nationally, state, and locally. Because of his firm's dedication and missions to nonprofit clients, David was recently named a citizen architect by the AIA of Florida. David is a graduate of the School of Architecture at Mississippi State University. He's a member of AIA, licensed in the state of Florida. He's NCARB and a LEED accredited AP. David has been an industry leader in Southwest Florida in sustainable and resilient design. Grace Place for children and families in Southwest Florida is the first LEED campus and includes 2 LEED gold buildings. The Lutgers Professional Center, which he completed in 2021, is one of Collier County's only LEED certified commercial buildings. David has served as our president of AIA Florida Southwest, and he sat on the AIA Florida State Board of Directors for a year in Tallahassee. So, good morning, David.
Good morning.
Great to have you here and have a discussion over a cup of coffee on a nice cool day here.
Beautiful day outside.
Beautiful day in Naples. You're probably the most prolific sustainable architectural firm in Southwest Florida. I mean, you have a number of LEED buildings that I've just discussed and others. They're very successful in Naples. I wonder, how have you found it challenging to educate your clients and draw them into the importance of sustainability and the intrinsic value of sustainable architecture?
Not so much getting them to kind of believing in building sustainable buildings, and it also kind of depends on how you phrase it to your clients. And I think the easiest way to get people to buy into building sustainable architecture is to talk about financial issues, about the fact that it's going to save them money over the long term. And that's often not so difficult to do for most of our clients retain their buildings. We're building for nonprofits or for developers who are going to hold on to the building and rent it out. And as long as they're going to be keeping the building for at least 10 years, you know, a lot of the sustainable things that we build into our buildings give payback over time. And so much of the of sustainability and LEED certification issues are now codified. They're now in the Florida Building Code, and such things like you get LEED points for stormwater quality and quantity and that sort of thing. That's already in the Florida Code. So a lot of it is in there already, and then other issues that we design for sustainable architecture and LEED certification has to do with rapidly renewable materials, and then also kind of indoor air quality issues like low VOC and things that don't cause allergies, and that's pretty easy to convince our clients of. The thing that's more difficult to convince them of is to convince them to pay for the LEED certification, because that can be as much as $30,000 for larger projects. So I think every building that comes off of our boards is either LEED Basic or LEED Silver. It's designed to those standards. It's just whether the clients are interested in paying for actually being able to get that plaque. And the ones that I've read off to you are the ones so far that we've had that are interested in doing that. The Naples Players wants to do it, so we plan on doing a LEED Gold building there. They're already paying for the LEED consultant and everything, but that's kind of the big leap, is getting them to pay for the certification. So, but no, we learned, in in school, it was kind of learning to design with the environment, before it was green, and it's something I've always been interested in. And it's easy to greenwash things. You see communities doing that for a long time, and
just to get those LEED points.
Well, no. LEED is very good. LEED kind of keeps that out. LEED, with the very rigorous program you have to go through with LEED, that keeps the greenwashing out. But you don't have to do anything to advertise your building as being green or sustainable or anything like that. So.
What do you think most of all of these sustainable techniques and principles applied? What's the most important here in Southwest Florida? What would you say of all of the things that you can do to make a sustainable building? What are the most important in Southwest Florida?
Well, I think I'd say it's probably the sort of things that we do without even, whether our client wants a sustainable building or not. It's what we're going to give them, and that has to do with how you site the building, how you set it on the site, and how you make it respond to the South Florida environment. I mean, a building built in Naples shouldn't look like a building built in Minneapolis. You're dealing with different climates, and so the buildings should respond to that. Most of our buildings have deep overhangs. We put a lot of glass on the north side, not so much on the west and east where you get the more sun. So I think actually building a building that responds to the climate is the lowest hanging fruit. I think that's the easiest thing to do. Operable windows, designing spaces so you can have airflow through it. On days like today, you don't even have to turn the AC on. And I think those are probably the easiest things to do. And you do them, they're basically, that's in our DNA at our office, so.
But do you find the local zoning codes supportive of that, or are they an obstacle to doing what you're talking about?
I guess it's the architectural codes. Like the Collier County has that. As you know, I much prefer the Naples way, is where you have a very loose aesthetic code, but then you have it reviewed by professionals. But sometimes these codes, such as the ones in like Estero, where they're actually trying to codify style, those are the ones that are more difficult to deal with. But the zoning codes, I haven't really found to kind of hurt us on the sort of the site planning for sustainability. We like to have our clients come to us first before they go to any kind of engineer, anything like that. Often the civil engineer is the first professional to get the project, and they might already have a location for the building laid out on the site, and it doesn't work for sustainability or access of pedestrians to the building and things like that. So if we get the first crack at it, we have a better opportunity for having the sustainability and the sort of user friendliness happen from the moment you step onto the site before you even get to the building.
Well, I've noticed that coming through DRB, some of your downtown core and some of your smaller residential sites that are oriented kind of at a north-south basis. Mm-hmm. What we see coming through is very difficult to deal with sun protection and capturing the breezes because of the orientation of the sites. Right. And the zoning I find doesn't enhance your ability to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's inherent with any community that has a set of kind of a gridded neighborhoods, which I think is one thing that's wonderful about Naples. And you might have a building or a house where your primary view is west, and you have to kind of do things to make that view possible, but also keep the sun out. Our house is a perfect example of that. We have this beautiful view over the water to the west, but that is a worse for sun, so we devised this movable shade structure there that we can operate, or you just roll the shades down until the sun hits the horizon, then you roll them up, so
you don't need sunglasses in your living room.
Exactly.
That's good. Shifting gears here a little, I know you worked for and were mentored by an iconic Naples architect, Andrea Clark Brown, who tragically passed away last year. What did you take away from that experience?
Well, working for Andrea very early in my career, I think was very good, and I kind of thought about the mentoring thing, and over my career, it's been my experience that I've been mentored more by colleagues than I have by bosses. And that goes back to my first summer working during university down here. There's a guy in the office, it was an architect that was kind of put in charge of me, and his name was Lowell Benson up in Fort Myers. He taught me how to windsurf. He took me out to show me the Walker Guest House on Sanibel and showed me the other like Paul Rudolph buildings and around Fort Myers. And of course Joyce was an early mentor. Probably the biggest thing I took from Andrea was the people that I worked with there. She was fresh off of teaching at Syracuse at that time, so she was able to kind of draw some of her best former students down to Naples, and we were, very competitive. We were all into design, and what I learned there is just a love for design, and that was a time when there were hardly any young people in Naples. It was us, and so we spent our time at work together, our time after work together. And so working with those guys who are all extremely successful. Margaret Griffin's a fellow out in LA now, and one of my best friends, Martin, is a professor at Cornell now, and friend Mark is an architect in Chicago, and a lot of us keep in touch. But working with those people in that environment was important. The main thing I take from Andrea was just respect for her coming down here as a woman, not very familiar with the place, and just making her mark not only in a men's profession, but I would think at that time was very much a men's town. I think it's changed a lot, but she had to come in and kind of elbow her way in there. And
being a New Yorker didn't help at all either.
And she did a great job.
I trust me on that one.
So I've got a lot of respect for what she did there. But yeah, it was a good time to spend 4 years there.
You say young architects in a group they're pack animals. They socialize. We all went through it. When you're in school together, you bond together, and
exactly.
you learn from each other. I find that the mentoring of emerging architects is so important. And I think a lot of professionals kind of lose sight, particularly as they get involved in their business and the day-to-day and the clients, and
it's
kind of
tough.
lose sight. What advice would you give to a principal of the firm to kind of keep that positive mentoring atmosphere in their office, and how would you do it?
Well, I think you definitely have to make the time to do it. And if you're so much of my career early on, I felt like I was just thrown into things. You just kind of assume that you know it, which I enjoyed a lot because I felt like I had the skills, and I was never afraid to just jump into something. And but I've found that the people I've hired to work over the years, that's outside of their comfort zone a lot. So you have to spend the time with them. And I've got he's working on getting licensed now, but he came to us during COVID times, early in 2020 when we split up and started working from home. So mentoring is nearly impossible.
That's difficult.
So, but you just have to spend time with them and teach them what you know, and you have to kind of fight back or push down that attitude. It's like, well, I figured it out, they can figure it out, and it's like, no, you need to teach them those things. There's a lot of things that they're going to figure out themselves, but I think there's a part of you that you have to take the time to pass on what you know. And also, if you like us, we have a particular idea how we want to do architecture, what we think buildings should be, and so you have to pass that along. I found out that doesn't come necessarily naturally to everybody, so. And I think, also getting involved with kind of outside, if and I know the AIA Southwest Florida does a good job with like the study groups and things like that, getting the interns together. I think that's an important thing also. To feel like it's not just them and the handful of people that they're working with. So.
Well, do you think? I know a lot of firms. This is very typical in New York. We call it burnout, where you'll get young folks and they just become we work you as much as we can, as fast as we can, because we can bring in another group of folks.
Right.
How do you, and I find that a lot of emerging professionals are cynical about that, and I think it taints their work ethic and their understanding of a work environment. So how do you balance the need to get things done and to be on top of stuff with that making time to hold their hand and bring them along? I think that's a delicate balance in a bit when you're running a business.
Yeah. Well, down here, it's as you know, it's sort of difficult to get architects and young interns to come down here. We're kind of at the end of the road, and so we work very hard to let people keep a good life-work balance, and I'd say that we do a better job of it than any place I've ever worked. Just like we are, our guys rarely put in more than a 40, maybe sometimes a 50-hour week. We had some presentation boards due a couple weeks ago. So, like 3 of us were probably up till 11 o'clock at night getting that done. But that's a rarity. Where it used to be, that was something that happened all the time. And I came up being a kind of a 10-hour a day, 6-hour a week architect. But that's hard to do right now when you're. And I think people appreciate that, and I think it's something that I set it up so that people are able to get in a solid 8 hours of work without distractions and be able to have all the technology and stuff they need to do that. But I think that if you can keep people concentrated and they're working, being productive for 8 hours, that's really all you need. And I think the work kind of suffers once you kind of get past that 8 or 9 hours, and it starts being wasted time.
The phrase you use is very important. That's a life-work balance. Mm-hmm. And I found that in our firm, that you need to be able to respect the life. And somebody's got a daycare problem for a day, you handle that. You let them handle that, because when they come back, they're going to be much more attuned to doing their work. So.
Yeah, we're very flexible. I think I'm the only person that comes into the office, 5 days a week. There we have, used to be 2, now we have one architect, Kirsten, who has 2 young children. They're sick all the time. She's got to pick them up early from school, and her husband is a professional also. So, there's like 1 day a week when she works from home, and there's other times, she's got to take the kids to the doctor. And so, hey, as long as you get the work done, you can do it whenever you need to do it, so.
I think that's a great culture to set up.
And in the pandemic times allowed us to get us set up so we can work seamlessly remotely. Yeah. And we're actually doing that right now because we're in between offices. We got flooded out in the hurricane, and our new office is not going to be done for a couple of weeks, so we're, for the last 2 weeks we've been working remotely, and probably will for another 2 weeks.
Okay. You become very involved kind of on a national level. I know you participated in AIA Knowledge Community. I'm interested to see, has that experience changed your practice in any way? Is there things you've learned that has expanded your image of what a professional is?
Well, most definitely, and it's kind of given me a better respect for what's available out there at AIA National. It's like I'd never heard of member groups and things like that before. It was one of my classmates, who's now president of the Texas Society of Architects, asked me to join the Small Firms Exchange, and it's the perfect one for me, because we do these twice a month Zoom calls, and there's a set program that we go through, but a good bit of it is just talking about what kind of technologies do you involve, how do you work through the passing your firm on to your employees and things like that, and it's guys from all over the country, and it's a very diverse group. It's probably half women, half men, and there's people of color on it, so it's it's fantastic. And there's other. It's actually a member group, and there's knowledge communities also which talk about the education buildings, and there's the there's one on sustainability, there's one on like affordable housing, and then there's of course the fellows group, there's a large firms group also. So yeah, just about any flavor that you're interested in, the AIA's got a group, and it's a very young group too. And we had our board meeting last year out in San Diego, so that was fantastic, and it's going to be in San Francisco as part of the national this year. So
if you were going to recommend getting involved, what benefits? Because usually, we tend to be fairly cynical. Why should I get involved? How does it benefit me? I'm too busy to get involved.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of doing something like that? Because it sounds like you're not spending a huge amount of time involved in it.
No, it's not. It's there's the basically 2 hours a month on calls, and then there's a little bit we divide up into groups, and you spend a little bit of time on those. But what I've gathered from it is just these resources for, especially for small firms, is the resources on how to operate a small firm, and then talking with people who go through the same things that we do. And I find that you're more likely to kind of speak candidly, show vulnerabilities to an architect in Utah than you are to an architect in Naples, because you kind of feel like, well, they might use that against me at some point. So it's much easier to kind of talk with people who you don't necessarily like share clients with, So yeah, I've gained basically a better way to run my office. And I also feel like I've been able to add a lot. I've had experiences that maybe these other guys haven't had, So I definitely, recommend, finding something that you're interested in to, on one hand to give back, but also, be selfish. Find something that's going to help your practice.
Benefit your practice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, my last topic, Ken, I ask everyone who we have these conversations with this question. What's the one accomplishment in your career that you're the proudest of?
I would say it's I started my own office about 13 years ago after being a principal in a large firm in town where we did a lot of developer-driven stuff. I'm very happy and proud that we've been able to kind of direct our practice to where a large part of what we're doing is, it's for nonprofit organizations that are actively helping to make the lives better for other people. And I've always been a firm believer that well-done buildings can, make students better learners, make teachers better teachers. Quality of space is, and to make people feel safer. So for our work to have been able to kind of help push forward the missions of our nonprofit clients, that's been probably the proudest thing. And like the women's shelter that we did out in Immokalee for the Naples shelter for domestic violence and human trafficking is, from what we can tell, the first purpose-built shelter for human trafficking in the country. And now we're working on a school for post-secondary students who are neurodivergent, who want to have careers or to continue their music education. And that's kind of a project we're working on right now.
That's interesting.
So yeah, I mean, it's not, there hasn't been anything done in the country like that before. So to have the ability to kind of do these things that have never been done before, and to be able to kind of hopefully have an impact on people's lives, I think that's the thing I'm most proud of.
Well, given that, if you were to say, what would be a need that architects could address in Southwest Florida now to better community? Where's the need that you see in a community and for people that would make a difference?
Well, I'd say there's a couple. I mean, obviously the one that you've been involved with for, I think, all your career is affordable housing. And affordable housing, people don't, I think, realize that it goes all the way from transition from homelessness to people who make just under an average wage, and there just doesn't seem to be any appetite in Southwest Florida to actually do anything meaningful about it. And the government wants to push it onto the developers, but the developers don't want to do it because they can't charge full price for it. And there's places, as you know, and out west in New York where it's a partnership. You actually have to have the developers move a little bit forward, and you have to have the government move a little bit forward also. I think there's very little of it that's done either with all public money or with all private money.
That's absolutely true.
And so far, there just hasn't been the appetite for it down here, and it's hurting us now. I mean, you see the traffic coming down from as far as Charlotte County for people to come work in Naples. And as Charlotte County, gets more and more developed, those people are going to be like, I want to stay here and work here. So, and then sustainability also. I mean, I do think that it's an issue that's. I do think that our climate is warming. I think that we as architects, I think the AIA nationally has done a good job of kind of making architects understand that we have a role to play in it. But I do think that sustainability and doing things to stop the warming of the earth and moving away from fossil fuels is the it's the problem of our lifetime and of our children's lifetime. So
big systemic problem.
Yeah. So
good. David, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
taking a little bit of time out of your busy day and talk. It's always good to talk with you.
Absolutely.
And good luck in keeping sustainability alive in Florida.
Awesome. Thank you very much.